So tell me, when you talk about a digital society, I think a very big part of it is also related to artificial intelligence, augmented reality. We talk a lot about algorithms now. But I'm sure many people in the room are going to, probably support me in this observation that sometimes as a consumer, I find myself on an algorithmic roller coaster. At times I'm very happy with the way it has shaped up my life, made it easier. But at other times, I'm really intimidated by the intrusion. It's one thing for the algorithm to understand your choice of food, but it is another for it to really predict how you're going to vote in the elections. So this kind of brain hacking sometimes is very unpleasant. So do you think this algorithmic bias is a real fear, or do you think it's just us going ahead of each other?
I think there are two parts to it right now. I think you're talking about a world in which algorithms are present, machines are talking to each other, and I think you're expressing a fear that a lot of people have about that kind of a future. And I think there's an interesting story I heard, which is, I think, quite relevant to the moment, where a journalist in London was ranting about the consequences of people being too connected with each other and people revealing too much about themselves. And I think I may be getting the English of the English wrong on this, but he kind of said, humans are all going to be transparent blobs of jelly because we are all exposing too much of ourselves. The interesting part is this was a journalist 100 years ago talking about the advent of telephones. Okay. So I think there's the big movement in technology across ages, I think, has always been accompanied by some sense of fear about what does this new world that we don't currently understand, what does it mean, and what are the challenges and threats associated with them. And yet, invariably, I think we have found a way to leverage those technologies to really unleash possibilities that we hadn't imagined before. And I think the same goes with AI or what you're calling algorithmic brain hack. I think the reality is there is tremendous ability for evolving tech to do good. Just take AI, for example. One of the initiatives that we are going to kick off in the next few weeks is AI for social good in India, where we are going to bring the best AI resources of Facebook to India and see if we can deploy that power to solve some complex problems that have not been solved before. And we're trying to figure out what the canvas of those should be. Should it be in education? Should it be in health? Should it be in agriculture? And the minute you're engaged with that conversation, you are realizing that the possibility of using AI to fundamentally change the lives of people for good is enormous. So I understand the concern, and I do think there is a conversation that's happening that we are in the middle of, which is a conversation about what kind of an internet do we want the world to create. And I think it's a very timely, legitimate conversation. And all of us, whether it's private institutions like us, or governments, or civic society, I think all of us need to come together to chart the norms and guidelines in terms of what that internet is. But I think we should move forward, even as we chart those guidelines, with a lot of optimism about what technology can do for us.
Tell me, some of these fears, some of this anxiety around a digital society is also panning out globally in the form of data breach, privacy concerns, confirmation bias on the internet. So do you think whatever the digital majors throughout the world have been doing in the recent past, after a lot of rap on the knuckles, do you think that's really going to put these fears or this anxiety to rest, or do you think we really need to, it's a continuous process, there'll be more to come, and then we'll have to handle more challenges?
I think there's a lot more to be done, and I think you were referring to privacy. I think we as a company, we have articulated that there needs to be a lot more thought, and we are spending a lot of energy and thinking into how can we give users, people on our platform, more control over their data. I think there's been a lot of reflection on some of what we have done in the past. And frankly, I think just purely from a Facebook point of view, where we are now is dramatically different from where we were even 2 years ago. And I think in a lot of ways, I think the debate is actually about what kind of an internet do we want. And I think we can address different parts of it, whether it's privacy, whether it's concern for algorithm. But I think all of it invariably comes back to when you do have connected people and you have the ability to layer, whether it's information or new experiences, the power of that is quite compelling. And the whole conversation is, how do we unleash that power? How do we make sure these networks are filled with good? And therefore, what are the norms and guidelines and rules of the highways that we should all design together? I think both go as a package.